is officially 2 o'clock on the East. It is officially 1 o'clock our time, Diane. So let us get things started. I'm going to kick things off with a quick promotional video because I can. So let me get that started.
The event industry gets knocked down, we get back up. With live events returning, maybe it's time to rebuild with a more flexible workforce. Cadre is the smartest way to contract event industry freelancers. Compliantly work with your own freelancers or access thousands of new faces from a single user-friendly platform. And with our addition of meetingjobs.com, post your full-time openings on the industry's premier job board. It's time. Get back up with us. Visit us today.
Excellent. So like our promo video said, Cadre is a platform to help clients in the meetings and events industry contract compliantly those freelancers that they need for their projects, whether it's pre-planning work, venue selection, menu selection, whatever it happens to be, or you need on-site staff. Cadre is the place to compliantly contract your people. And Meeting Jobs is the place to go if you're looking for that perfect fit for your long-time hire. Again, specifically for the meetings and events industry. So check us out, hirecadre.com. Also check us out at meetingjobs.com. And if you happen to be a freelancer looking for some work, events are coming back. They are getting hot again. So make sure that you sign up again at hirecadre.com and at meetingjobs.com. So without further ado, let me dive right in. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by a strong, vibrant woman, Dianne Devitt. And like any strong woman, no one thing defines her. So Dianne is an event producer. She's a keynote speaker, an author, a media presence coach, and a mentor and a consultant. I think I got everything in there. Dianne, did I miss anything?
Professor at NYU.
Professor at NYU.
There we go. Yes. Very proud of that. Yeah.
That covers everything. And that is something to be proud of,
Yeah.
for sure. NYU is, I think people have heard of that university.
Yeah.
How did you get into the meetings and events industry? And why did you choose this industry?
Well, Kate, that's a loaded question. So I'm going to make a very long story short. When I was in college, I majored in theater and business without knowing why. I just know that I love theater. And one of my beliefs at the time, and this was a little over 30 years ago, was that if I was going to find a place to work, that I wanted to find something that would combine theater and business. And so my solution was to work temporary. I loved working temp, just like, with Cadre, how you have people you never know.
Right.
Meet, where you move. So in those days, I signed up with an agency. I walked into the agency. This fellow who I came to know very well in the industry said to me, "What are you doing here? Go to this trade show tomorrow." Now, I was working next door to the Hyatt on 42nd Street in Manhattan. So I went to the trade show, and unbeknownst to me, the trade show was with HSMAI. It was a tabletop. The first tabletop said, it had a picture of someone with sports, someone with George Burns.
Oh my goodness.
On a big show. That's how long ago this was. And tours and on the beach. And I said, gee, that looks like fun. And 3 days later, I was in San Francisco being hired for a company that doesn't exist anymore. That was one of the first destination management production companies in the business. So that was my entry.
That is amazing. And it really just goes to show being open to possibilities. It will keep those doors open, and you never know which way you're going to find yourself walking. So today we are discussing specifically creativity in leadership. Mm-hmm. So let me just get started by picking your brain. What does it mean to be creative in leadership, Dianne?
I think there are two ways to define that question, Kate. One is because I've always been a creative leader, right?
Sure.
It can be difficult if you choose it to be, or it can be very forthcoming in terms of building up your team and supporting them through the creative process. And I always refer to, and in fact, I always have visuals because that's part of being creative, but my little Maslow hierarchy of needs here, that when you look at it, creativity is number 3 from the top. So when I was at, and this was actually part of my book, my one book, What Color Is Your Event? But self-actualization is on the top, vitality is second, and then creativity is third. And so when I was doing my research on this topic, I found it extremely interesting to see it up there, because what that implies is that in order to truly embrace your creativity, you need to be healthy and strong, vibrant, have self-esteem, have love in your life, have compassion, have confidence, have all of the other qualities that lead up to the top of that triangle. So it's a very interesting concept when you say, what is creativity and leadership? It's owning your power and owning the confidence that the ideas that you have will work, and guiding your team with their input, right? So that it is a process to get results.
So you make it sound like it's something that everybody has, that everybody can do. Everyone can be creative in leadership. Is that true? And how do you hone that creativity? How do you hone that muscle, if, especially for people not like you and me, we bound in the creative all the time, I think, but especially for those who are not as not raised in creative environments, how do you hone that?
Right. Well, let me just say this to you, and I say this all the time. If I asked 100 people, and I think this is a good question to ask people, if I asked 100 people, what does creativity mean to you? Mm-hmm. What does creativity mean to you? Put it in the chat. All right.
That's a great idea. Add it in right now.
Or what does it mean to you? We're going to get probably however many people are online, we'll get that many different answers, right? Or what was the most creative moment that you can remember you had? People will think of so many different things. But if I asked a room of people, and when I ask a room of people if they're creative, I can't tell you how many times I'll get 3 people, 4 people brave enough to have the courage to raise their hand. When the reality is everyone is. Now, you just pointed out a really interesting fact, all right? You said, well, some of us know more creative. The most creative person in my life is my accountant.
Oh, wow. That's not a person or a career path that you think of as creative.
But the thing is this, or the man in my life, and he always says I have 2 right brains. He has 2 left brains. But you know what? In the meetings and events industry, we're so process driven, aren't we? And processes are all about coming up with solutions to new ways to solve problems. Now, maybe the difference is that the more emotional person will actually relay ideas in a different way, but the systems and the process person hates that emotional response, right? Because they want to put 1 to 10 down on a piece of paper and follow it 1 to 10, where the emotional person and the other type of what we would say that Roger Rabbit type person, they'll go from 1 to 9 to 2 to 15, right? And drive these people crazy. But in the end of the day, that's, people are coming up with solutions, aren't they?
Absolutely. And that's absolutely fascinating, to see all the different types of people that, a diverse group, which is something we had talked about on a previous Cadre Talk, having diverse, inclusive teams really leads to greater productivity. And I think that's something that you had mentioned, embracing different types of creativity, because it doesn't all look the same in every single person.
It doesn't look the same, but it teaches us, I have to I'll share one story with you because
Yeah.
of course it's all communication and how you hear things, isn't it?
Sure.
And many, many years ago, a few years ago back, I was producing an outside event for one of the universities up in Boston, your
Very
old town. Okay.
Very nice.
And my contact at the university said, Dianne, what can we do to help you? And I thought it would be the easiest thing in the world to say, could you get us the orange cones, right? Orange street cones,
Traffic cone.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, right? Could you get us orange traffic cones? Because obviously, you're outside and those would be our stanchions and whatever we use them for, right?
Yeah.
The day of the event came, checklist, of course, I'm checking. You have the cones? Yes, we have the cones. We have the cones. I'll never forget this as long as I live. So we get there and I say to my contact, I have 3 guys and the pickup truck. We'll go get the cones. Oh no, I'll carry them out. What do you mean you'll carry them out? Well, I didn't even know that orange cones came in a 6-inch size, like you could fill it with
Toddlers.
ice cream, like put ice cream in it. So,
Oh, no.
and it's your client, right? It's your client. But the process brain needed to hear, and this is a good lesson for me over the years.
Sure.
Would you be able to find me orange cones that are 28 inches high, that are used for traffic? So you're that specific, because Kate, at the end of the day, we have to be that specific, don't we? With whatever job we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we and so many people on this CadreTalk, as we're producing events, we've got a specific image in mind for how we want it to unfold. And the only way to get other people on board is to communicate all of that with them. So what did you end up doing in that situation, Dianne? Did you use the little cones?
No, because we couldn't. I ended up sending those 3 guys out to the Department of Transportation or the garbage, actually the sanitation, and because they own them, and got them and brought them back. So, and we used tape, but again, we had to improvise, right? Because those are the kind of things that happen to people every day, right?
Yes,
They
exactly.
happen to people. So when you ask me about creativity and leadership, it's also not finding fault with the person that did that, right? Because
Sure.
they processed it differently,
Right.
and still keeping a positive environment and a learning environment for both people, right?
Yes, that I think is such an important thing, is having it be conducive for everybody, because us creative people can view things one way, like you said, and then the people who don't view themselves as creative respond a different way. I think that there's something that you had mentioned to me when we had talked a few days ago, that you are developing a collaborative creative culture. What is that? What does that mean? And why is that important for leaders?
Well, let's just talk about nowadays, right? So, and the reason that I got onto this topic too is because I was asked to write about it. So we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But the whole concept of a collaborative creative environment is that regardless if you're virtual, if you're hybrid, if you're in person, that you create what I call a permission to play.
Oh, I like that.
All right. I write it, I speak about this and I write about this. In other words, and we can use that phrase too with designing meetings and events, is adults, okay? Adults will trust one another if they are in a play environment, meaning if you and I can joke with one another,
right?
If you and I feel comfortable with one another, we then have a human connection. And that human connection, that sensory, that visceral feeling that I can trust Kate with one of my ideas. I can trust her, or I can go to her with an issue, or I can go to her if I'm challenged with something. That is all something that can be created through this environment, permission to play. Now, I say this to you, Kate, you know, I'm in this business a long time, and I can go back many years, and I love the industry. And I look back now and I think some people misinterpreted me, because when you're happy and you're smiling and you're positive, that, as we just learned from Maslow, is the top of the pyramid. But not everybody trusts themselves to say what's in their mind. So I actually, if you don't mind, I'd love to read this one little quote that I wrote. Creativity is power. Listening to that little voice in your head when you have an idea, not always understanding why, but trusting yourself and having faith in yourself that the idea will work. It's that little voice in your soul that guides you to find a way.
So we need to actually listen and trust that little voice from time to time, especially with our creativity, and not always push it back to the back of our mind.
Push it to the back of our minds. And I think, like I said, I want to go back to, you know, when we spoke about the whole concept of creativity, and it's not a word to be afraid of.
And I think so many can be just turned off and shut down when they hear the word creativity, because they
exactly
envision artists and bright colors and all of that.
and all of this stuff, right? Like, yes. Oh, the creative person is in the house. Well, you know, let's just talk about these two different things. Let's talk about creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, because we had spoken about that a little bit, right?
Right.
What exactly does that mean? So I can rattle off and I can come up with something every time. You know, I think twice when we were setting up here, you said, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I don't even remember what it was. Somewhere down there. Okay. So ideas are ideas, right? They're these floating messages that I have this theory I call the ravioli theory. You know, someone invented the ravioli the same time someone invented the pierogi, the same time someone invented the dumpling. There was no internet.
Right.
It was the vibration in the universe, that thought that went out there, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a healthy person and a confident person, and you have time to listen, right? Mm. And also, let me just add one more thing. There are no walls. And I think that's to me the difference between my left brain Mike and me, is I'll say, oh, I see XYZ, and he'll say, oh, but there's this, and there's a curve, and there's this, and that. And I say, no, right away you go into the precautions and the what nots. All right. I go into the what if. Mm-hmm. So how can we get around it? All right. So there's that real, you know, different way of looking at things, right?
Definitely.
But, okay. So ideas are ideas. Let's come up with 10 different ways to get from this side of the street to the other side of the street. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we can do that. And if anyone wants to put it in chat, please do it. Innovation is taking one of those ideas that have value to a specific objective and a set of goals, and then implementing it and executing it into a strategy that will then come to life, right? So when someone says that company is innovative, it is because they've grasped ideas and then adapted them to make them use. And that's when you talk about a collaborative culture. Mm-hmm. That is what I enforce for leadership, and especially now, I'm facilitating some groups coming back just to break the ice, just to let people know that this re-entry that we're all going through is felt by everyone. And getting them to be a team again, getting them to think, getting them to joke with one another, will build up the team and create that unification again.
That's fantastic. I know that in one of your books, as we mentioned, you are a woman of many talents, but
Thank
one
you.
of your new books called To Lead, you have a bunch of action steps for people that are, looking to take that next step to harness that creativity. Can you share with us some of those some of those action steps that we can do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I just tell people to embrace your inner creative, right? Embrace it and tell yourself every morning, you're the most creative person I know. You're going to come up with 10 ideas today, and at least 5 of them will be implemented. Okay, maybe 1 is, but that doesn't matter, okay? The second thing is give yourself permission to trust yourself. Give yourself permission to let go a little bit. And when people say think out of the box, now I know we have to think in a nanosecond sometimes in this business. And that leads me to one thing is don't be afraid to trust your judgment. All right. I've worked with some very prestigious schools, one of them in Boston, in Cambridge, just saying. Right?
We won't name names.
When I worked there, the one thing that really drove home with me is that they actually wanted to make mistakes. That was what someone just came out and said to me. No, Dianne, we want to make mistakes because then we'll learn what doesn't work.
That's completely true. I mean, that's the best way to figure out what doesn't work is to make that mistake.
Right. And so if you figure out what doesn't work, then you can move forward in what does work. And so whether it's re-entry or it's planning a new hybrid meeting or a virtual meeting or it's hiring new staff or whatever it is, right? If you don't get it right the first time, adapt it. Adapt what you learn and try again. And that is a creative mind. Okay, that's a creative mind. All right. The other thing is exercise. And I'm going to tell people this. What do you mean exercise your brain? And you said this right at the get-go. You said your brain is a muscle. People need to realize their brain is a muscle. What do? Sometimes I sit here. In fact, last week I was obsessed with I was looking for a specific, and this is part of the workshop process I do, is I go into a specific artist, Picasso, a Monet, and then I type blue. I'm going to pick blue because we're wearing blue today. And just look at all the different images. So when you exercise the creative mind, whether it's through art, whether it's through newspaper, whether it's through, here's another big tip I give people. Set your alarm at 6:57.
What a strange time.
Exactly.
I was going to say, that's probably your point, isn't it?
And that is exactly my point. And guess what, Kate? You will wake up at what time?
6:57, probably 7 o'clock. But
tomorrow, do me a favor and text me, okay?
Okay.
But everyone try this. So when you try, when my mother, my late beautiful mother, when she was sick, I used to serve her lunch. I gave her apple juice in a martini glass.
I love it.
Okay, you see where I'm going? In other words, we don't have to put the same plate, the same cup, the same things every day. We can spice up our lives, and when you do that, we actually stimulate our brain and our senses in a way that keeps them active.
I love it. So I know that you are also an event producer. How did you come up with I think that's probably one of the biggest questions. Like, how did you come up with that creative idea to then put into motion?
You mean which one?
Like, do you
which one? So many.
Name an event that you had that really.
Oh, you mean it implemented a creative idea? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'd be
creative.
happy to. Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. So let me give a couple of examples. I think that can help people. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a one challenge. So I was producing an event, and I love this one. I was producing an event for a global HR VP, and the topic, it was diversity, but this was diversity before it was, really something that people were more conscious of.
Sure.
Anyway, I had an idea. I went to the CEO and the number two and the person responsible for the meeting, because, do not proceed on your own.
Right.
Do not do these things on your own without
Checking
management backup. Okay. Be up, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I did. There were 5 panelists. They were all VPs, senior VPs on the executive committee of the company. So I went shopping in the conference center, board chair, stool, secretary's chair, regular chair, lobby chair, all different heights, styles, dimensions, this and that. We didn't tell them. We kept the panelists backstage. And when they walked on stage, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, this was worth 100,000 words. Those are the kinds of things, right? Or here's another quick one. People in an in-person meeting, what is the first thing they do? Go to get their badges, right? Mm-hmm. If it's a small enough meeting, I turn the badges upside down and I mix them up so that when Kate goes up, and you're a Z, so you probably go right there all the time. People stop. What are you doing, Dianne? Pick a badge and find the person. When someone has to find, so it becomes a team builder. There again.
And a nice icebreaker.
Yes.
Way too.
Yes, a nice icebreaker. So the other thing I want to leave people with, because I know at time is one of the biggest tips is give visuals to people. Don't stand and try to describe something. This is very process and system, because the creative people won't see it. The process people won't process it. The systems people won't hear it. So, I mean, and exercise your brain. You see this?
Yeah.
Do you know
the tree, but the faces in there too.
That's right. So some people will see the faces and some people won't, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So look at all of these different ways to keep your brain exercised. Even new food, tasting new food, stimulate your senses, keeps your brain like, oh, what's that? I never had that before.
Mm-hmm. How cool. Well, we actually just got a question in that I think feeds in perfectly to this conversation. How does a creative mind effectively communicate with a non-creative business professional so that they can translate and bring that into a tangible event and meet those goals?
Right. So thank you. So this is the quick answer. And we touched on it earlier, is ask the person to repeat or ask them what they heard from you. When you're speaking with someone, and I had this all the time with my team, here's what I see, and I said to my team, if I'm not clear, please let me know. Mm-hmm. If I'm not finishing a sentence, please let me know. If you don't hear what you need to do your job, please let me know. So I think creating that permission, what we said, and also have some fun in your office, have a wear red day, even if it's virtual, because when you do something different, you give people permission to think differently. And that's what creativity is. It's thinking differently, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's something that all of us in this industry have to do at some point, whether it's in the planning, in the actual execution of the event, sometimes even the wrap up and the post event portion, we still have to be thinking and on our toes.
Right. But I want to say one more thing too, because there's so much to talk about here, but
there is,
when you talk about a collaborative culture, it's a democratic culture. So it's about everybody being part of the process. It's about listening to everyone and writing everyone's ideas on the wall, and capturing that so that they're part of that, right? So they're all part of that process. And I think that's the most important thing.
So just to wrap things up, last minute thought, presenting different ways to have people communicate and collaborate would be a good way to make sure that you're touching base with all of those creative avenues that people might have.
That's right. Touching base with everyone in the language that they speak.
Dianne,
Right?
thank you so much. That is the perfect way to end it, to touch on every single person in our team so that everyone feels like they are part of that team. So on that note, Dianne.
Well, thank you. And by the way, Kate, special
Yes.
offer for everyone online while we wrap up. I think you'll get the link from my book.
Yes.
Special rate $15 for one and 12 if you order 10 or more for your team. So thanks for letting me share today, and go out and do something different. All right.
I love it. Thank you so much. Go out and do something different, everyone. Talk to you all soon. Thank you again. Bye.